manifestation of this womb wisdom. Then we'd be looking at the first week, week 1, which I identify with fall as being the week of the period, because we're really talking about that we're shedding the uterine lining. It's kind of like red leaves falling from trees. It's harvest time. It's time to get rid of the former cycle's uterine lining. So really the first week is really the last phase in a way, but we use it as the first week simply because it's easier to figure out pregnancy and stuff. It's easier to calculate. It's the only reason it's the first week. Otherwise, it's really the 4th week. It's the end of the former cycle. So we start the cycle with the end of the former cycle. Okay, and what happens is the hormones are at their lowest. And again, I'm not a hormone expert. You don't have to be for this. What I'm doing is I'm tapping into women's psychological journey, how the hormones are relative to and relevant to our daily lives. Okay, so this is something that you start feeling as a woman. You start feeling these energies, and I'm sure that this is what women did before they understood the science of the hormones, before the world really understood those. All they needed to understand was where were they at in this cycle and how to feel these energies. So, and this is really easy. Once you start tracking, you do start feeling these energies. So this first week, the hormones are laying their lowest. That tells us to lay low. That means we need to rest. This is the resting phase. And what happens is that women aren't resting enough. They never have. I've had some people say, well, women went back to work and all that. Sometimes going to work is more restful than staying at home with a bunch of kids. I mean, it wasn't any different for our mothers.
Depending on who your boss is.
Yeah, when you're at home with kids, you're not resting either.
Yeah,
so, women just don't rest, whatever they're doing. But what this tells us to do...
Another project.
But what this says is that you must rest. So go to work, do whatever your responsibilities are. You're not ill, although you might not feel all that well, because this is radical stuff happening when the uterine lining is shedding, when women are bleeding. It's a radical scene if you think about it. I mean, it's just a radical thought to think about how intense that concept is.
Right.
So, and oftentimes you don't feel well on the first or second day. But go to work. What it means is that after work is done, after your responsibilities are done, just do what you have to do. What I'm asking women to do is go home and rest. Don't do the extra errand. Don't go out for pizza and beer. Don't do any of the stuff. I mean, even if you have a marathon to run, go ahead and run your marathon, but then go home and rest after that. Don't keep pushing it. Because if you don't rest during that time, it's no different than you or I not sleeping at night. And we may be able to do it for one great party, right? But that's it. And not even good for that.
I'm not even sure there anymore.
I know, right? I'm the same. If I miss one night of sleep, I'm a mess.
Yeah.
But really, it's true. When women aren't resting at the beginning of the month, then it messes them up for the whole time. Sure. And it could be that your wife that was irregular, maybe she wasn't resting enough.
Sure,
and there's many things. I found that when women are tracking in this way and following the system, many are becoming regular who were irregular.
Right.
Because they're doing what our primal body is doing with or without us. So when our primal body wants to rest at this time, and we're going against that, we're now causing stress. We're now causing resistance.
When you're in that flow, you're in the flow of it's a flow.
It's a flow, and that's what.
But when you're resisting that flow, it's just like.
Yeah. And then everything's when we're not in alignment, there's constriction and things aren't going well.
Well, let's talk about men for a little bit.
Okay.
I heard that men go through a menopause. Is that a fact that you know?
I don't know. I mean,
there's a point in time where they lose their ability to climax as they get older. But you don't know about that.
I don't, because what I would have to say is that I would like to see men start tracking these 4 phases themselves. Men would feel, so for instance, the aligning with the idea of that first week. Let's say the womb wisdom is that first week is the resting phase. So for men, that resting phase, just like we all have in that 24-hour circadian rhythm, you'd have in a 3-month phase. And when you could tell that you're in that phase. Now, see, you don't have any markers. You don't have any blood. You don't have any ovulation. You don't have anything to show you that where you're starting at. But what you do have,
that feeling.
That's right.
Yeah,
and so what you do,
body.
yeah, and your feeling body would let you know what it would look like is when you're more in thought, in contemplation, when you're more internal, when you're ruminating and your best ideas come, when you feel like just visioning, when you feel like meditating more, when you just feel more internal. You can identify it with the new moon. So I have, for instance, non-cycling women track their cycle starting with the actual new moon. Now,
okay.
A cycling woman, she would start tracking on the first day of her period. But I would have her also identify that with a new moon energy. It might not be the actual new moon, but that would be her new moon phase. It's an internal time. It's the potential of the womb. It's the dark, the cool darkness of possibility. So it's a new moon internal phase. Non-cycling women would actually follow the actual new moon. Just start tracking there. The reason for that is not that the light of the moon is all that. It is powerful, but it's not regulating our cycle anymore. But what it is doing is it's reminding your brain, reminding your body of what it knows so well, what your primal body knows so well. So just get in there and do these things in each of the weeks, and then you'll start feeling the phases
would
again.
you start a man cycle on the full moon or the new moon?
No, the same thing. It's just no. They wouldn't be. The men wouldn't be following that.
No. Okay.
Now again, though, the moon phases do affect men also, as far as the actual moon out there. It affects all of us. But we're talking about the real primal force of what energy you're in. So the resting phase for you would be at that point when you're finding that you're just really in this idea mode, when you're just really the idea mode, the rest, you just feel like being more mellow, you're just feeling more introverted. And that would be that phase. The second 3-month phase would be the building phase. So you're taking those ideas that you thought about in that first phase, and now you're acting on them. Okay. You're building your relationships, you're building your communication, you are building that business or that project or whatever it is, and you're feeling kind of energized and excited. Okay. You're taking an idea and you're kind of making it happen. So that's in like another 3-month phase. For the women, it'd be in the second week of their cycle. Okay. Because the reason is because scientifically, what the hormones are doing is they're building that uterine nest. The eggs it's called the follicular phase, this first part. And the reason why this system is important is that when we know scientifically that we're in the follicular phase, that doesn't mean anything to us in our day-to-day lives. To know that I'm folliculating doesn't do anything for me in my day-to-day decisions, in my rhythmic decision making. But when I know that I am building in light, that I'm building relationships, that I'm building in sexuality, primally what's happening in that second week for women, in this womb wisdom, primally what's happening is that we are attracting a mate. With or without our consciousness, our primal body, our primal engine is attracting a mate, and we are growing more beautiful every day, scientifically.
And now, is that because of the hormones?
Yes.
Now, how about what's the other one I was thinking?
The pheromones?
Pheromones.
Yeah, so that's coming out more. We are trying to procreate. This female cycle is all about procreation, if we choose.
So that in the second week, for a woman, their hormones are building, and that is what's the energy that men.
That's right. Are attracted to. Yeah, they're magnetized to. Yeah.
So how are men in that second phase? How are they? What are they? Are their hormones?
Well, yes, right.
All right, their hormones are starting to build.
Right. Well, during that second 3-month chunk, I can't go through scientifically what's happening with the male hormones through there. Again, this was from talking to researchers who say that men's hormones are going through, and men's hormones cycle through lots of things. In a day, in one day, men's hormones are cycling through a certain way. I mean, when men are stimulated, you know, more early in the morning or 11 a.m. or, you know, whatever, I mean, you know, you can track all of that. They also have sort of an every 4 day sort of thing also. I can't speak to that because it's not my expertise.
Okay.
But from what I understand, these 4 phases that I talk about, men do follow through a year. So again, you would follow the sun, we would follow the moon, and which makes sense, you know, working in tandem with each other. And you know, we're just coming up on an eclipse, and that's what's going to happen is just as the sun is coming up at dawn, the moon is dropping and crisscrossing right there at dawn. And what a beautiful combination that is. It doesn't always happen like that, but you know, how, because of the way everything's orbiting and turning and, you know, all this kind of stuff, we get different configurations. This dance is always a little different.
Yes.
And so with men and women, we're also doing that. But when we start understanding that we're rhythmic, and that if we can start learning more about our rhythm and we know how to speak to each other and align those rhythms, how exciting is that?
You know, when I was growing up, well, I guess I was in my 20s by that time, but I was told to follow nature, follow the laws of nature, and I'll find rhythm.
Oh, great. Beautiful. Well, sure, because nature, as far as I'm concerned, is creation's creator, divine YouTube video. You know, if we're outside, we're going to learn everything we need to know about earth-spirit alignment by looking at nature. And nature has those 4 phases. You know, you walk out your front door and early in the morning and the flowers are still closed up. And then they start opening up. I mean, you watch time-lapse photography and you see it happen. And then it peaks and then it starts coming back down.
Yes.
And that happens all throughout nature. So, you know, when we really spend more time in nature, you know, our signals are better. You know, the earthing. If we're earthing with the core of the mother, how that helps our electromagnetic signals within us is the way that I understand it.
Now, that's the question that I've been building at. In the process of Mother Earth and her cycle, how does that affect you? How does that affect a woman?
Well,
I mean, do you try to get into the same cycle as the Mother Earth is?
Well, again, we're lunar rhythmic, so it's the light of the moon that is making us turn, and the light of the moon also affects Mother Earth, but so does the sun. I mean, the sun and the moon are affecting at all times what is happening with the tides and what is happening with the grass and what is happening, you know, with our weather patterns and everything. So I would say that Mother Earth is also affected by both, and so are we, as being little holograms of the Earth Mother.
So what I'm reaching for here is that if a woman was to step outside and have outside as her home, would she naturally just flow with the cycles of nature?
Well, I think that...
Or are they the same?
If she were, well, what would probably happen is that, I mean, you know, actually the Earth itself is very, the Earth Mother is actually very Taurus in a way, I think, you know, very, very Earth. You know, it's grounded and consistent and congruent in a way, predictable. So yesterday, for instance, I was hiking, and I was with my sweetheart, and we stopped at a creek, and we were watching for a little while, and as the water moved through, the stones were steady. You know, the stones weren't moving. Now, you know, we know that over the history of the Earth, that stones move and things shift, and all of that shifts around. But for the most part, if we were to close our eyes and be there for 24 hours in that same spot, whether the light is coming in or not, we'd probably, the creek would sound the same, the stones would be still, you know, there's that congruency. The water is the fluid thing that's going through the rocks, and that's more like Mother Earth's amniotic fluid or her bloodstream, you know, that kind of thing. But the stones are like the bones. So we've got Mother Earth's body here, but it's pretty consistent, sort of like our structure is pretty consistent. But what we do with our but what comes in from Mother Earth are the weather conditions and all these different things, and what comes in for us are the thoughts and the feelings and the other people, and so in that way we are, again, a hologram of this Mother Earth. But when it comes to the change, the rhythms, we're really talking about sun and moon coming in.
Okay.
And I'm not even an expert on this stuff either. I'm just saying that
But
this
that's the
all
difference
really,
between men and women.
Yeah.
Is the lunar affects the women,
Yeah.
the sun affects the men.
yeah, and they all affect all of us.
Right,
I mean,
right.
all the men are affected by the lunar rhythm, the women are affected by the solar, but predominantly, women are predominantly ruled by the moon, men are predominantly ruled by the sun.
This is what I like to do. I like to meditate with the moon. Either it starts to go into the full moon and go into the new moon.
Yeah.
And when I'm actually outside sleeping under the moon, my intuition becomes so intensely higher than if I'm in a house.
Yes, oh sure.
And I'm 4 walls covered and no moon. I really find that the intuition is very high.
Sure.
I can almost hear what somebody is going to say to me
Yeah.
before they say it.
Well, you're highly evolved in that way because you are open to it,
Mm-hmm.
and you're open to it, and I'm sure we don't know each other well or anything, but I can tell, and just by the shows that you have, and all the stuff that you're interested in, that you've been open to it for a very long time, and that's often what it is that when we're open to a new idea or lots of new ideas coming in, or these rhythms are going to go through us, and we are going to become one with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens way easier when you're out in nature as opposed to being indoors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, so how does the sun affect the men?
Well, in that same way that the sun seasons change, again, your hormones seem to, from what these researchers have told me, seem to follow that same alignment, seem to
Okay.
follow that same sacred geometry.
All right.
Okay, so but where men can actually learn more is by first learning about the women.
Sure.
And so again, you're baptized through the women. So when you can learn these 4 seasons in 4 weeks, or these 4 phases in 4 weeks, when you can really tune in with that and learn that, then your own becomes much more apparent. Because the women are the ones with the markers. The women's cycle is actually, the men's cycle is more of a mystery, because we don't have these markers. You have this consistent thing. Reproduction-wise, you've got sperm going on all the time. They're sort of ready to jump into action, and lots of it. So, it's kind of this steady burn going all the time. Whereas the women have and that's the solar thing, right? You have this steady sex drive for the most part, but women
Right.
have this rhythmic
Yeah,
sex
okay.
drive.
All right.
And so when you understand the women's, and it's time for us to understand the women's, because we've been living the men's for a long time.
Sure.
We've had a lot of time to know what the men's is, whether we logically understand it or not. We've been living in it for so long. So where the imbalance is by not understanding the women's. And when we understand the women's, it's very easy, again, because we've got this construction zone going on, then everything starts aligning, and then men can start really feeling these phases themselves. So with the women, in that second week, we are really building that uterine lining, building that uterine nest. We are, our eggs are having kind of what I call a Miss Universe contest in a way. I mean, they are really vying for who's going to go. There's going to be one that gets to go. It's like the queen bee egg comes down.
Now, let me ask you: does a woman have to be really sensitive to feel that process, that egg, at that point?
Well, she's not really feeling the egg. What she's feeling is sexually intoxicated. So,
Okay.
yeah, so see, these are the things that come into play for us on a day-to-day basis. During that first week, she is going to be more tired for the first couple of days or so, the first few days, and she needs to rest. She needs to do all that. Sexually, she could be feeling like having sex or not having sex. It just sort of depends on the woman, it depends on her partner, it depends on what they decide, all that kind of thing.
Sure.
But, I mean, her hormones are starting to build slightly, but they start out at their lowest, and then they start to build a little bit. The lubrication of the blood may make her feel more sexual, or it may not. Just sort of, depends on what's going on with her body, and it's really individual.
Okay.
Women need to be tracking that and need to be sharing that with their partner. The second week, you can feel the transition from that first to second week, because it's like when you get out of bed in the morning, when it's finally time to get up.
Kicked in.
I mean, all of a sudden you're just awake and you hop out of bed and you go.
Yeah.
You don't feel like going back to bed. You want to get going, and that's what the transition feels like in this. When women start becoming in tune with this cycle, they feel it. And one of the best phone calls that I can get is when women call me to say, I felt the transition, because normally they don't, and because we're not in tune.
Not being in tune with it.
They're not. Yeah. So the second week is the most overlooked week, because we feel good during this week, and we haven't been taught that there's anything bad about it, so we don't even know it exists. We're not focused on it. But it should really be focused on, because this is a time when we can overcommit. What happens in the second week, what's relevant to our lives, is that all this egg building and all this uterine lining building and all this primal wisdom wanting us to attract a mate means that, first of all, we are sexually intoxicated. That can be a good thing or a bad thing. The good news is that if we have a partner, what it means is that we need to be aware of that this is a phase, because this is the time that we should have heart-to-heart talks. This is the time we say yes, as long as, now here's the flip side. If you don't want a pregnancy, you have to observe contraception, and that can happen back in the bleeding days too. It just sort of depends. That's
Sure.
a bigger, more of a tangent of a conversation, but your fertile phase of when you could get pregnant can start very early. But as far as attraction, what's happening is that the woman really wants nothing more than the light of her man or her partner coming at her. She wants him to come forward. Now, because she may have said no last week, she's kind of used to saying no, or he's used to her saying no, or something, because she doesn't feel like it. And so nobody wants to initiate anything. But when she understands that and when he understands that, well, first of all, let me just say for the men, let's go back to male-female relationship. How can you best be supportive? And this is what I talk about in the Man Guide. This is about being successful and being supportive of the woman in your life. So that first week, when she's bleeding and she needs to be resting, what the man can do is just be so supportive of her resting, that he keeps the home mellow, that he makes dinner or brings dinner in, or just, you make it mellow for both of you. You both kick back and just do sweet things. Watch a movie, get food and bring it in. Just make things easy. If there's kids at home, just kind of take over the kids. Go to bed early, But just, rub her feet, or, just be sweet, sleep skin to skin, and just do sweet, have your sweet time together, because it's not that she doesn't necessarily need to be away from you. She's just having this time. It might be a good time to go off on your bike ride too, or, whatever. But this is a time to be sweet. And the men need to understand that they can't just hop in on these peak times, that each week builds on you're really doing this dance. And so this is the slow dance over here.
Well, once the two of you have that cycle, then it should be more harmonious anyway.
Absolutely. And so, the more you do this whole month together, the more you do each phase together, then the more you're going to get in sync. It may take many months. But what happens then is the second week, if the first week has been very sweet, then the second week during this sexually intoxicated week, then I ask the men to court the woman. Okay, clear your calendars, go on dates. You don't have to have a bunch of money to do it. Figure out cool things to do.
And the third week or the second week?
That's the second week.
The second week.
Okay, so this is the romantic week.
The romantic week.
Because she loves...
Got that, guys?
Yeah.
The second week.
The second week.
Romance.
Well, what did I say about the first week?
You gotta be quiet on the first week.
And sweet. And that matters for this...
Bring the flowers in.
That too. That's good. That's a good idea. But what happens is that if the first week has gone well that way, then she's going to be open to, I tell the men, ask her on a date. I don't care if you've been together 35 years. Ask her on a date.
It's always important to do that. It's
important to do it throughout the life of your relationship.
Because it's a time for the two of you.
Yeah.
But if you don't make that, Marriage gets real old real quick.
It does, and you need to do it. Everybody needs to do it. And courting isn't just the beginning of the relationship. And I'm telling you that this is the time. Now, you can do this anytime. You can do any of these things anytime. I'm talking about the optimal times. When the body is most in alignment, when the hormonal body is most in alignment with it, when the sexual body is most in alignment with it. So what happens here is that for a couple, you go out, but you first you play together. You go out, you hold hands, you do some fun stuff. You have heart-to-heart talks. It's really important to have it at this point, because this is the time when her heart is the most open and can also speak to actually any issues, even in the way that is really where her ears are open, the male's ears can be open to a good conversation about maybe some things that are uncomfortable at times. Issues. Or you're just speaking your heart. And
is that a good time to talk during the second week, or is that when you're trying to be more romantic?
The second week is the most romantic.
All right.
So, but I say do it early.
When's the issue week?
Well, I don't call it issue week. I just call it heart-to-heart time.
The heart-to-heart talk is the best during the second week.
Well, there's two things about talking. So this is the time when your hearts are the most open, where tough things can be heard a little bit more, but also it's important to speak your heart to the person.
Right.
What you love about them. Even, let's say you have more hard issues than loving issues right now, just because you're at a tough place. It's still important to speak to what you do love, even if it's just a little bit, because that's going to build. You can work out some of these other things, and you become more patient with each other.
Okay.
So you get through this week, and what happens for women also is that the bigger picture is they love everybody during this week. They just do, and I'm telling you, this is incredibly accurate. And women, as I talk with them about it, they start realizing this is true.
I'll start surveying women who act like they're, how would you say, more open, more congenial, happier?
They're probably in their second week.
I wouldn't get slammed if I said, "All right, you must be on your second week."
Well, the thing is that you know the thing is that every week is great. So what you wouldn't want to do is approach anything as being, this is great because that's not.
Okay.
Oh, you're just being great because you're on this week. You know that's not cool, because because again, this has been such a challenge for women, and what we really want women to do is find balance every day, and so they can see what strengths they have, what they have to be careful about in this week. For instance, so the strength in this week is that they are feeling open and loving, and their bodies feel good for the most part. They're acting on these ideas that came in this first week, because that first week is also the visionary phase. If they're resting well, then big visions are going to come, big ideas, plans. The second week, then they're acting on those ideas. And so they may even be building a business. It may not be about romance. It may be that they're building a business, and so they're attracting clients. But the downfall. The downfall is that this is the week they can give it all away. They can commit. They can overcommit. They can go to a party and get with the wrong guy, because this is
a seed donor.
It's a seed donor, and the thing is, again, the primal body is the one talking here.
Sure, yeah.
And so I tell them that they have to have the buddy system when they go to a party, where you help each other out to not make bad decisions.
Make sure I don't take the man home.
Well, it's true, or you're just more mindful about it. But each week has its pros and cons. Yeah. It has its strengths and its weaknesses, so we're learning how to remember. The third week starts with ovulation. Okay, so that second week is like the waxing moon. It's in that, almost like the waxing gibbous moon, when you're getting towards the full moon. So you know how kind of exciting that is. Yeah. Like right now, that's where we at, as we speak today, which is, what day is today? October 6th. It's would have been my mother's 90th birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. And
90, wow.
She would have been 90. She died 2 years ago. Miss her greatly. Wow. But it's October 6th, 2014, today, this interview, and it is the waxing gibbous. We're getting really close to the full moon. And it's getting very exciting out there.
And what we're talking about is the 4 seasons and the 4 weeks.
Yeah.
A book review by Suzanne.
Suzanne
McQueen.
Yeah, like Steve McQueen, or Lightning McQueen, depending on how old you are.
Awakening the power of wisdom and beauty in every woman's nature.
And the subtitle is this because this is really, this lunar rhythm is inside every single woman on the planet, every single female on the planet. This is something that our ancient ancestors knew. I mean, think about how much the DNA that's within us. How many cycling women have